Welcome to Section 3, Organizations and People Dimension of the Monitoring and Event Management Practice. Of the 20 questions in the exam, 2 questions will be from this topic. These would be a mix of understanding and application questions. The role questions, if any, would be understanding type, and the organization structure questions would be of the application type. This is also a rather short section. So essentially, we will be looking at any specialist roles of this practice and also how the organization would define its structure for this practice. Now, these practice guides do not describe the general practice management roles such as a practice owner, practice lead, practice coach, etc. They actually focus on specialist roles in each practice, and we will see if there are any at all in this practice. For example, in change enablement practice, you could have a change manager, a change coordinator. In a problem management practice, you could have a problem manager, problem coordinator. Similarly, in incident management, you could have a incident manager, major incident manager, and so on. But not all practices have dedicated specialist roles. And also the naming of these roles depends on the organization's own needs and their own context in the service industry. And therefore, these are, even though these are guidelines from ITIL, these are not mandated nor even recommended. Also, roles do not make up job titles because a single job can be made up of multiple roles, and each person can also perform multiple roles. And one role can also be assigned to multiple people if it's a complex role. The roles are particularly connected with the processes and their activities. Before we go into anything specific to this practice, we will look at the ITIL 4 general approach to the competency codes and profiles. Now, this table is not in scope for the exam, but if you're writing the combined exam or the bundled exam, the monitor, support, and fulfill, which is made up of the 5 practices, including the monitoring and event management practice, then you would have to know this table. So let's anyway look at this table. ITIL 4 defines 5 competency codes, L, A, C, M, and T. Now, using these codes, a specific job or a role can be defined. L, leader, A, administrator, C, coordinator, communicator, M, methods and techniques expert, T, technical expert. In general, you would understand all this out of your own experience, but let's look at what ITIL tells us. Leaders, they make decisions, delegate, oversee activities of others, provide incentives, motivation, evaluate outcomes or achievement of goals. Administrators, they assign tasks, prioritize them, maintain records, logs, perform ongoing reporting, and they could initiate some basic improvements. Coordinators or communicators, they help different parties engage with each other, and they maintain communications between various stakeholders and run certain awareness campaigns about, let's say, certain initiatives starting or certain projects starting or new customers onboarding and so on. The M, methods and techniques expert, they are not technical people, but they are aware of work techniques, for example, Scrum methodology or Kanban or software development methodology, etc. And they are good at documenting procedures, consulting on processes, can perform work analysis, root cause analysis, for example, and perform continual improvement methods, meaning they would be skilled in the continual improvement methods. The technical experts, they provide technical expertise, could be IT, non-IT, and conduct expertise-based assignments, meaning they take part in such expertise-based assignments. So what we see here at the bottom, there are no specialist roles for this practice, but there are many organization roles that may have some connections from this or to this practice. For example, a technical manager, a service delivery manager, a service owner, or a technical specialist, all of them may be performing certain responsibilities of this practice. Here is another table before we go on to the structure for a team of this practice. Now again, table 4.2, this is not in scope for your exam, for the monitoring and event management exam. However, if you are again writing that bundle, monitor, support, and fulfill, which is made up of 5 practices, including this one, the other 4 practices are the incident management, problem management, service request management, and service desk. That's a longer exam or a larger exam. with all the 5 practices included. And for that exam, this table is in scope. Now, this is a table which you need to look at on your own in more detail because there's a lot of information herein, but I will give you a general overview of this. This table is essentially giving us or listing the processes of this practice and then the activities or under each processes of this practice. So the first column is the activity of a specific process. Second column, the responsible roles who can perform that activity. The next is the competency profile. And the last is specific skills needed to perform that process activity. And this is a very good guideline for your day-to-day work when you need to assign people to perform certain tasks of this practice. Then because you can see immediately what kind of competency profile is needed, what kind of skills they need, who can perform them for which activity. So we'll take a quick look at this entries here. To define the objective of monitoring as under the monitoring planning process, which has several activities, it has 8 activities in sequence. You will notice that most of the roles in all these activities are very similar. You have got, for example, service owner, designer, developer, and others. So which means that almost anybody can be performing these activities. Now, of course, they need to have certain skills, and that's what the last 2 columns will give us. So there are things such as the practitioners of this practice need to understand the service value for stakeholders, what is the service proposition. They need to have the service level knowledge and user experience insight, service architecture and design, expertise in monitoring tools, probe detectors and sensor. Now these skills vary for each of these activities. And you see here in the second entry at the bottom, we have service validation specialist because we are beginning to define what needs to be monitored, different type of events and the thresholds for them. And therefore designers, architects, others also come in. Now these individual roles that we are seeing are not defined in ITIL as a whole. You might find some of them defined in other practices. For example, you will find the service owner role described in detail in the service level management practice. But they are not all of them. Then we have other activities like defining health model and defining the correlations. Then you have similarly various roles that can perform. And because it's about the services, they need to understand the user experience, the warranty and utilities of the services, have subject matter and business process knowledge and service architecture and design knowledge and monitoring tools knowledge as well. Continuing, we have in the same process of monitoring planning, we have activities related to defining the monitoring action plans and defining the tool capabilities. And the roles are again varied like before. And the skills are very similar. We have, in case of the tools activity, we need people who can understand the tools that are available. Now we have the next process, event handling, which goes into event detection, logging, and filtering and correlation check. We have here some new entries. We have, for example, the product or service owner, project manager, CI owner. We didn't see them before. Service owner, we did see that before, but the project manager and the CI owner, those are new here. And because these things can become a big project and therefore those roles can come in. And event handling, because it's now we have a new process, event handling, the second process where we have these activities in sequence, event detection, event logging, event filtering. Now we have the event handling process, beginning with the event detection, followed by event logging, and then event filtering and correlation check. That can happen again and again in an iterative manner. And we see the roles are very similar, except that we see project manager and CI owner. And that's because those people can also come in for event detection and logging and event filtering and correlation check. There's no unique reason for that as such. And in terms of skills, because this is the actual event handling process itself when events occur on the fly, therefore the skills are about understanding the monitoring context, knowledge of the event logging procedures. Those would be the main skill requirements. Then continuing with the same event handling process, we have event classification activity followed by event response selected, notification sent, response procedure carried out. So also one thing I did not mention earlier is about the competency profile column. We can see that we are seeing multiple letters combined to form a competency profile. So for example, during event classification, technical expertise is needed, followed by administrative skills. So that's how we should read out this combination. So the first letter will represent the primary skill requirement, the second letter, the secondary skill, and if there's a third letter, it will stipulate this, the tertiary skill requirement. And this is how skills needs can be prioritized for the various roles or activities. So some of these activities require understanding of the impact of the events and the actions that are needed, and the operating procedures, predefined actions, and the knowledge of the communication channels, and so on. Now we have the monitoring and event management review process. It's not really a process, it's a set of activities, though we can club them as a sort of a process just for convenience. So we have the major events review, review of filtering and correlation analysis, review of the service health models. And here essentially the skills would be to bit similar like some of the monitoring planning skills. But then we also see continual improvement skills here because it's about the reviewing and improvement. Then there are some more review activities such as review of the event response procedures and automation, review of the monitoring and event tools, and review of statistical information as well. So here we see expertise in different areas based on the nature of the activity.